We won't back down. We will stand our ground. Ethiopia shall prosper. Ethiopians shall live in peace. Ethiopia shall persevere. Ethiopia shall overcome. Ethiopia shall prevail. Because standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own Ethiopia. Hello families of Ethiopia today. Welcome. Ethiopia and its unity is the breath of this channel. Ethiopia, a country with glorious history and culture of 3,000 years. Ethiopia today has no more language than Ethiopia. Our today's presentation focuses on the recent commentary by Professor Alemayehu Gebre Mariam. Professor Alemayehu teaches political science at California State University San Bernardino. He is the senior editor of the International Journal of Ethiopian Studies, a leading scholarly journal on Ethiopia. The article is in-depth and exhaustive, so we plan to present in 2 parts. We invite you to stay with us, and please also like and share the video and help us reach out to more audience as much we can. First-time visitors, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Then you won't miss out very important and the exciting videos we bring to you. Let's get into the presentation. Daylight lynching of Ethiopia by the dirty hired guns of the UNHCR exposed, says the scholar. Law book-toting gunslingers of the New West. In the folklore of the American Wild West, cattle barons and mine owners would pay hired guns to come around and take care of business. Oftentimes, they would pay hired guns, hitmen, to rid outlaws the local marshals and sheriffs could not handle. Occasionally, they would hire them as bounty hunters to track down outlaws and bring them back dead or alive. In the cold realpolitik reality of the New West of the Biden era, post-World War II, the old-time gunslingers are replaced by law-book-toting lawyers and arrogant and self-righteous gospel of human rights thumping paper tigers and dragons preaching fire, brimstone and damnation against outlaw African countries for a contract price, says Alemayehu. The New West's cattle barons and mine owners are called Joe Biden, Susan Rice, Princess of Darkness, Chris Coons, Gregory Meeks, Robert Menendez, Giuseppe Borrell, Antonio Gutierrez and company, according to Professor Alemayehu. The New West's gunslingers are not called Wyatt Earp, Stagecoach Mary or Belle Star, he adds. They are called Stephen Ratner, Kari Mangi, and Radhik Kumaraswamy. Their job is to travel the world on behalf of the cattle barons and mine owners of the New West and bushwhack governments in developing countries using human rights as a machete, Alemayehu explains. Ratner's professional description posted on the University of Michigan Law School website recounts his decades-long exploits as an international hit or lawman chasing after all types of Cambodian and Sri Lankan government outlaws, war criminals, criminals against humanity, perpetrators of genocide, etc. Ratner began his legal career as an attorney advisor in the Office of the Legal Advisor at the U.S. State Department. In 1998 to 1999, he was appointed by the United Nations UN Secretary-General to a 3-person group of experts to consider options for bringing the Khmer Rouge to justice, and in 2010 to 2011, he was a member of the UN's 3-person panel of experts on accountability in Sri Lanka, which advised the UN Secretary-General on human rights violations related to the end of the Sri Lankan Civil War. Ratner has been a decades-long legal hitman for the State Department, traveling to Cambodia, Sri Lanka and elsewhere in hot pursuit of alleged human rights outlaws. As a member of the International Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia ICHRE, Ratner is reprising his role in Cambodia and Sri Lanka. Indeed, it is not a big deal for him, Alemayehu continued. All he has to do is cut and paste the Cambodia and Sri Lanka investigative reports, substitute Ethiopia for the 2 countries and voila. Another fine fictional human rights violations report on Ethiopia. On March 2, 2022, Ratner's Gang of 3 was appointed by the President of the Human Rights Council to investigate human rights violations in Ethiopia. On March 11, 2022, Ratner represented the following incredible statement on the University of Michigan Law School website. I am deeply honored to be appointed by the Human Rights Commission President for this important and challenging assignment to address a truly horrendous conflict that has led to such human tragedy, Ratner said. I'm also looking forward to working with my two distinguished commissioners, each of whom are leading figures in the practice of human rights. Ethiopia launched a military offensive in its northern region of Tigray in November 2020. The ensuing conflict with separatist forces led by Tigray People's Liberation Front has left thousands dead, nearly 2 million civilians displaced, and 400,000 on the verge of famine. However, the whole world, and especially the US, knows the terrorist TPLF started the war, the scholar underscores. On November 4, 2020, the day after the TPLF attacked Ethiopian federal forces in Tigray region, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo issued a statement making clear the US position. The United States is deeply concerned by reports that the Tigray People's Liberation Front carried out attacks on Ethiopian National Defense Force bases in Ethiopia's Tigray region on November 3. Not only that, a top leader of the TPLF terrorist group explained how and why they started the war. They call it the lightning attack on Northern Command of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. How Ratner would conduct his investigation and frame Ethiopia for human rights violations was clear 9 days after his appointment to the expert panel. Ratner had already concluded Ethiopia had started the war and announced it to the world. His job was simply to selectively collect evidence to support his conclusion. Ethiopia launched an attack on Tigray. Rampaging Ethiopian troops committed war crimes, crimes against humanity, rape, torture, etc. in Tigray. That is precisely what the September 19, 2022 ICHRE report concluded. Here is more that Ratner and the Cambodia hit job. In 1998 to 1999, Ratner was appointed by the UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon to a 3-person group of experts to consider options for bringing members of the Khmer Rouge regime to justice in Cambodia. Indeed, Ratner was instrumental in getting the UN General Assembly to pass a resolution asking the Secretary-General to consider the possibility of the appointment of a group of experts to look into human rights violations, war crimes, etc., in Cambodia, Alemayehu explains. Once appointed, Ratner's group was given a triple mandate. Firstly, to evaluate the existing evidence and determine the nature of the crimes committed. Secondly, to assess the feasibility of bringing leaders to justice, and the group's third mandate was to explore options for trials before an international or domestic court. Ratner's group also insisted the main source of evidence will be witness testimony. Any trial lawyer worth his salt knows eyewitness testimony is fickle and, all too often, shockingly inaccurate, according to Professor Alemayehu. Ratner's group undertook its investigation in Cambodia and reported commission of various offenses under international law, including genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, forced labor and torture, among others. Ratner's group recommended trials of suspects be confined to those persons most responsible for the most serious violations of human rights in Cambodia, including senior leaders with responsibility over the abuses as well as those at lower levels who are directly implicated in the most serious atrocities. Ratner's group further concluded only an ad hoc UN tribunal would effectively mete out justice to the Khmer Rouge, rejecting proposals for trials in both a Cambodian criminal court and a UN-supervised Cambodian court. Ratner's group further considered and rejected other mechanisms of accountability, including investigatory or truth commissions, removal and exclusion from office of offenders, and financial sanctions. So, the million-dollar question is this. Alemayehu raises the question, what was the outcome of the Ratner expert group's Cambodia investigation? On September 22, 2022, after 16 years and only 3 convictions, the International Tribunal for Cambodia closed down for good. National Public Radio reported, the International Court convened in Cambodia to judge the Khmer Rouge for its brutal 1970s rule ended its work Thursday after spending $337 million and 16 years to convict just 3 men of crimes after the regime caused the deaths of an estimated 1.7 million people. To add insult to injury, the court ended its work by rejecting the genocide conviction of the only surviving leader, who is in prison and 91 years old. It cost $112 million to convict each one of the 3 Cambodian defendants. He asks, where did all that money go? Though as a criminal defense lawyer I believe the accused is entitled to the best defense, I am appalled that much of the $337 million went to cover lawyers' fees, wild goose chase investigations and grease the palms of corrupt officials and UN bureaucrats to keep the investigative scam going. Justice delayed is justice denied. The UN Human Rights Council spent over $250 million to feed lawyers and other bottom feeders and let hang to dry, turn over in their grave, 1.7 million Cambodians. Ratner and the Sri Lankan hit job. In 2010 to 2011, Ratner was called to service once again by the New West cattle barons and mine owners. Alemayehu continued. Ratner was appointed as a member of the UN's 3-person panel of experts on accountability in Sri Lanka with the aim of advising UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon on human rights violations related to the end of the Sri Lankan civil war. Beginning in the 1970s, Sri Lanka had faced a bloody terrorist war at the hands of the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Lanka, Tamil Tigers. Hundreds of thousands were killed, maimed and displaced in Tamil Tiger terrorist war. In 2009, Sri Lankan Defence Forces defeated the Tamil terrorists. In the anti-terrorist action, it was alleged Sri Lankan Defence Forces attacked civilians and hospitals, denied food and medicines to the population and committed war crimes and all sort of atrocities. After the Sri Lankan government declared victory over the terrorists in 2009, it invited Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon to visit. Barely a week after Moon's visit, the UN Human Rights Council convened a special session on Sri Lanka at the request of Western governments to look into human rights violations during the Sri Lankan civil war. Alemayehu continued. In March 2011, Ratner's panel of experts issued a 214-page report that threw everything, except the kitchen sink, at the Sri Lankan government, the scholar adds. Ratner's group accused the Sri Lankan government of killing of civilians through widespread shelling of hospitals and humanitarian objects, denial of humanitarian assistance, human rights violations suffered by victims and survivors of the conflict, including both internally displaced persons and suspected LTTE cadre. Human rights violations outside the conflict zone, including against the media and other critics of the government. Using civilians as human buffers. Killing civilians attempting to flee LTTE control. Using military equipment in the proximity of civilians. Forced recruitment of children and forced labor. Ratner's group estimated more than 40,000 people had been extrajudicially killed by the Sri Lankan government. Ratner's group barely documented the horrendous crimes of the Tamil terrorists, Alemayehu notes. So, the million-dollar question is what happened to Ratner's Sri Lankan investigation and report. To make a long story short, as of September 12, 2022, the Sri Lankan government has told the UN Human Rights Council to take their report and shove it where the sun don't shine. In March 2019, Sri Lanka co-sponsored a resolution made by the UN giving the country a 2-year deadline to establish a judicial mechanism to assess violation of humanitarian international law committed during the civil war. Tiger Tamils are to Sri Lanka as TPLF hyenas are to Ethiopia, Professor the comparison. There is great similarity between the Tamil Tiger terrorists and the TPLF hyena terrorists in Ethiopia, according to him. On October 8, 1997, the U.S. State Department classified the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Lanka a foreign terrorist organization. From a date yet to be ascertained until June 2014, the TPLF was listed as a terrorist group by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Homeland Security determined the TPLF qualifies as a Tier 3 terrorist organization under INA Section 212A3b-3 on the basis of its violent activities before it became part of the ruling coalition and the government of Ethiopia in May 1991. The Tamil Tigers are listed in the Global Terrorism Database as a dangerous terrorist group. The TPLF hyenas are listed in the Global Terrorism Database as a dangerous terrorist group. On November the 11th to the 14th, 1993, the Tamil Tigers attacked Sri Lankan military base in government-controlled area of Punarin, overrunning the garrison and capturing military hardware and killing 532 Sri soldiers and 135 sailors. On November the 3rd to the 4th, 2020, TPLF hyenas attacked a federal military base, Northern Command in Tigray region, overrunning the garrison and capturing military hardware and killing and maiming thousands of Ethiopian soldiers. In August 2009, a 1,000-strong force of the Tamil Tigers massacred some 285 men, women and children, around a third of the population of the Palayagodela village. On November 9, 2020, the TPLF hyenas massacred 766 innocent people in Maikadra. The Tamil Tigers forcibly recruited child soldiers. The TPLF hyenas forcibly recruited child soldiers. They are conscripting and deploying child soldiers at this very moment. On January 5, 2007, Tamil Tigers terrorists set off explosions that killed 6 people and injured at least 30 in the Sri Lankan capital of Colombo. On September 16, 2006, the TPLF hyenas planted 3 bombs that went off in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa and publicly blamed Eritrea and other opposition groups. Beginning in February 2009, the Tamil Tigers, in spite of the futility of their military situation, not only refused to surrender, but also continued to prevent civilians from leaving combat areas, ensuring their continued presence as a human buffer. Beginning in December 2021, the TPLF has been using child soldiers as human shields. In August 2022, TPLF hyenas issued orders to shoot their own retreating troops. The Sri Lankan Defence Forces defeated the Tamil Tigers in 2009 and rid their country of a malignant cancer once and for all, bringing peace to their people. The Ethiopian Defence Forces shall soon defeat the TPLF hyenas and rid their country of a malignant cancer and bring peace to their people. Kari Betty Mwangi, Kenya. Betty Mwangi is the chairperson of the Ratner hit team. Mwangi replaced former International Criminal Court prosecutor Fatou Bensouda, who resigned on June 22, 2021, 4 months after the Ratner hit team was established. Mwangi has long been a long-time apostle, cheerleader and defender of the terrorist TPLF. On April 2, 2021, when Mwangi tweeted, "If there was a time for application of R2P in Tigray, the time is now," she was advocating for humanitarian military intervention. R2P is an acronym for Responsibility to Protect by International Community in cases of mass atrocity, crimes of genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing and crimes against humanity. Interestingly, Mwangi deleted her Twitter account to destroy all trace of her tweets advocating for the terrorist TPLF, but her efforts were not entirely successful. Mwangi got her chance to put her wishes into effect on June 22, 2021, when she replaced Fatou Bensouda as chairperson of the ICHREE. Mwangi was handpicked for the job by the President of the Human Rights Council because she had a solid track record of supporting the terrorist TPLF. What is so shocking to the reasonable mind is that the President of the HRC did not even bother to do the minimal due diligence to screen Mwangi for simple things like bias, conflict of interest, appearance of impartiality, neutrality, etc. This brings to the end of Part 1 presentation. We will bring you the second part soon. Thanks for staying with us. Don't forget to like, share, post your comments, and subscribe to our channel. Let's work with the algorithm of the platform. These are the ways you can support our channel to continue producing this and similar contents. May God bless Ethiopia and its people. Thanks again.